Utopia, a play in 2 acts. And assuredly, if God had not chosen the best, he would have had no reason for having chosen any. Consequently, he would not have produced anything. Thus, we may say that the world is the best of all possible worlds, and that consequently, whatever is done therein is the wisest, most beautiful, and fittest. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, 1710, Essay the Theodicee, Essays of Theodicy. Characters: Professor Adrian Vance, early 50s, intensely focused, precise, and entirely humorless, but driven by a consuming intellectual passion for structure. Dressed in a sharply tailored dark suit, Liam, a bright but sometimes overly enthusiastic first-year student. Chloe, more reserved, observant, and thoughtful. Setting: a university lecture hall. Whiteboard covered in analytical musical notation and strictly organized terms. A pristine black piano sits to one side. A projector screen displays a meticulously annotated musical score. The lights come up on Professor Vance, already standing rigid and focused at the front of the lecture hall. The projection screen displays the opening bars of Beethoven's Symphony No. 5, marked only with severe brackets around the first 4 notes. The atmosphere is one of disciplined expectation.
Good morning. This course, titled Musica Structura 101, concerns the necessary frameworks required for the construction of organized sound, otherwise known as composition. This is not an exercise in subjective expression. It is an exploration of objective logic applied to the audible phenomena. Our task is to move from the chaotic impulse to the structured, inevitable form. We begin with the motive. Observe this structure: 4 notes, 3 short, 1 long. It is the fundamental particle of this entire 4-movement system. It is a necessary unit of identity. The crucial question is not what the motive expresses, but how it is utilized to sustain a 30-minute architectural form. If the motive is not robust enough to withstand the rigorous and varied transformation, the entire edifice will collapse. It must possess internal coherence and external potential. The mechanism by which this particle expands is motivic development. It is the process of generating complexity from simplicity, thereby achieving formal unity and coherence. This is a non-negotiable step in a successful realization of large-scale musical work. You will internalize these techniques until they are automatic. The techniques are tools of logic, not of mere decoration. First sequence: the exact replication of the motive's intervallic and rhythmic profile at a different pitch level. The structural integrity is maintained. The ear perceives the immediate connection which authors the subsequent material. It is a calculated redundancy, essential for establishing recognition. We use sequence to navigate within a section to provide directional momentum and to modulate from one harmonic area to another without introducing foreign unconnected material. Sequence is the fundamental engine of linear movement. Next, inversion. This is the reversal of directional motion. An ascending major second becomes a descending major second. An ascending perfect fifth becomes a descending perfect fifth. This is not a matter of choice. It is a mechanical reversal designed to provide melodic variation while preserving the underlying intervallic logic of the original material. It creates a new melodic axis. The contour is reversed but the intervallic DNA remains traceable. Consider the thematic transformation achieved through inversion in Bach's fugue. It demonstrates that new material can be derived from the old through strictly logical means.
Professor Vance, if the motive is, say, C up to E, a major third, does the inversion have to be C down to A flat, or just down a major third from whatever the next note is?
The execution of intervallic inversion is precise. If the interval C to E is a major third ascending, the absolute inversion starting from C is C to A flat, a major third descending. The pitch class is determined by the interval size and quality. In practical application, especially within a defined tonal center, certain alterations may occur for harmonic necessity. For instance, inverting a major interval to a minor interval to remain diatonic. But the principle remains the reversal of direction and the preservation of quality. Your question is valid. Focus on the principle first. The intervallic vector is reversed. We also manipulate time. Augmentation and diminution, these are the processes of scalar manipulation of rhythm. Augmentation involves the systematic lengthening of the rhythmic values, doubling them, for instance, or tripling them. Diminution involves systematic shortening, halving them. These tools manipulate the temporal scale of the motive, altering the perception of momentum without sacrificing the core identity of the pitch relationship. This is not for emotional impact. This is for structural pacing. A motive in augmentation functions as a weighty foundation, perhaps anchoring the bass line or appearing in a slow introduction. Conversely, diminution creates kinetic energy and excitement, often used to build tension into a climax or to propel a coda. Observe the change in density. The material is identical, yet the rhythmic function is entirely different.
With diminution, does that allow for a faster harmonic rhythm because the motive occupies less time?
Precisely. The compressed temporal unit of the diminished motive accelerates the harmonic rhythm. Thus, the composition gains urgency. It is an effective technique for transition or heightened formal stress. These are not arbitrary decisions. They are cause and effect within a fixed system. The relationship between rhythmic duration and harmonic change must be calibrated with precision. Finally, fragmentation. Taking only a subsection of the motive, perhaps only the rhythmic component or only two of the pitches, and developing that subsection in isolation, this allows for maximal material economy. Every particle of the initial idea must be capable of generating subsequent material. If your motive cannot survive fragmentation, it is structurally inefficient, and you must design a stronger motive. The process of developing a fragment forces focus. It simplifies the material to its most essential elements, allowing it to be integrated into accompaniment figures or counter melodies, where the full motive would be too intrusive. It is a refinement of the original idea. We must also briefly address retrograde. This is the reversal of the sequence of notes. If the motive is ABC, the retrograde is CBA. While conceptually simple, its application in tonal music is often structurally challenging. as the intervallic relationships relative to the tonic are disrupted. However, in the context of serialized music, retrograde, along with its inversion, becomes an essential primary means of generating structural unity, a formal guarantor of material consistency. Your work here is to transcend the accidental and embrace the inevitable. You must build musical structures that are logical, coherent, and formally unassailable. The motive is your genetic code. Development is the process of generating the complete organism. You must prove that every note you write is a structural necessity, derived logically from the source material. Your assignment for the next meeting is to take the 6-note motive, D, E, F, G, A, B, and compose 10 measures for string quartet that exclusively utilize 3 specific developmental techniques: sequence, diminution, and fragmentation. You must annotate your score clearly to identify where each technique is applied. There will be no tolerance for unsupported, subjective material. The technique must be demonstrable upon analysis. Proceed and focus on the logic.
Good heavens! I didn't understand a thing she said. I'm going to go peek in at the gifted program, see if it makes more sense there.
Hello, amazing future composers. Welcome to your class on sound building. Today, we're going to talk about how famous composers, like Beethoven and Mozart, take a tiny little idea and build an entire massive piece of music out of it. We call this tiny idea a motive, spelled M-O-T-I-V-E, motive. Think of a motive like a single special Lego brick. It's usually only a few notes long, but it has a very specific shape and rhythm. For example, look at this famous musical code. 3 short notes and 1 long note, da-da-da-dum. That's the motive. It's the most basic musical unit you can have. To build a symphony, we can't just repeat that code thousands of times. That would be boring. We have to use different tricks to change it, stretch it, and spin it around. These tricks are called motivic development. A composer is like a scientist testing different ways to change that Lego brick. One of the easiest tricks is sequence. You take your motive and you play it again, but you start on a different note, either higher or lower. For example, if your motive is C-D-E, going up, you play it again starting on D, D-E-F. It sounds familiar because the shape is the same, but it moves the music to a new place, much like stepping up a staircase. Another trick is inversion, which is the flipping trick. You play the motive upside down. If your motive goes up by a certain amount, like going up a third, the inversion goes down by that same amount, down a third. It's like looking at your motive's reflection in a puddle. It looks new, but you can still tell it's the original motive. We also manipulate time using augmentation and diminution. With augmentation, we stretch the rhythm out so that every note becomes twice as long. Your quick, snappy motive suddenly sounds slow, grand, and serious, making the music feel heavy and important. Conversely, with diminution, we squeeze the rhythm together, so every note becomes twice as fast. Your motive now sounds quick and excited, adding urgency to the music. The fragmentation trick is about focusing and cutting. You cut your motive into an even smaller piece and only use that tiny piece. If your motive is 4 notes, you might only use the first 2 notes, or maybe just the rhythm of the last 2 notes. Composers use fragmentation when they want to whisper the motive instead of shouting the whole thing, keeping the idea alive but making it much more subtle. Finally, we have retrograde, the playing backward trick. You start at the end of the motive and play all the notes in reverse order until you get back to the start. If your motive is 1-2-3, the retrograde is 3-2-1. This is a very structural trick that makes the music feel tightly organized. These techniques are how a genius composer turns 4 notes into an unforgettable journey. They are not just random ideas. They are logical ways to build a complete piece of musical architecture. Your mission for next week is to take the simple ascending motive, C, D, E, F, 4 notes going up. Compose 8 bars for any instrument you like, piano, violin, or just your voice, that clearly uses sequence, moving the pattern higher or lower, augmentation, making the notes longer, and fragmentation, using only 2 of the original notes. Be clear and show off your tricks. Would you like me to play a famous piece of music and help you identify which of these 5 tricks the composer used?